In the next 20 minutes, you will hear about the TICE project, the context in which we are operating, the approach that our project is based on, and the actions that we plan until the year 2027 in May. TICE is an acronym, and it stands for Transnational Initiative on Enhancing Early Self-Identification of Victims of Labor Exploitation and Forced Criminality. We are a 2-year project that started in June 2025 and will finish in May 2027. We run on a budget that is a little more than €500,000, and we are co-founded by the European Union. TICE is a partner project, a project between the International Rescue Committee, Germany, the organization I'm working for, Stop dem Frauenhandel, based in Munich, Germany, Daedalus Cooperativa Sociale, based in Naples, in Italy, and ARSIS, the Association for the Social Support of Youth, based in Athens, in Greece. So we are in total 4 partners, and we operate in 3 different EU member states. We work in 2 different time zones, and we have one common aim. Our aim is that third country nationals, victims of trafficking in Germany, Greece, and Italy, that they know their rights and their options for self-identification, and they are detected and referred to support services more quickly and safely than today. At this moment, I realize that this is not the actual slide I wanted to show you, so please allow me a second to change, and you will see the most updated slide with the most updated numbers I would like to show you. Thank you for bearing with me. Let me start with the context in which we are operating. According to Eurostat in 2024, there were 10,793 victims of trafficking that have been recorded in the European Union for the year 2023. However, the International Labour Organization estimates that there are actually 4 million victims of trafficking in Europe and Central Asia. So the dark number is much, much bigger expected to be than what is being recorded right now. From these cases that we already know, we can see that online recruitment is an integral part of the business models of traffickers, especially through social media platforms and messages. Today, a trafficking case starts with an Instagram post, it starts with a TikTok reel, and then later on the communication goes on WhatsApp or Telegram channels. When people think of trafficking in Europe, often sexual exploitation crosses their minds. And this is for a good reason, because this kind of exploitation and trafficking builds the biggest group with 4,000 cases out of 10,700. However, there are also other cases. Forced labor is actually the predominant form of trafficking in 7 EU countries, including Italy. And this form of trafficking makes 3,500 cases, so almost 33% of all cases in the European Union detected. Forced criminality is rising in Greece and in other EU countries where it is able to be detected. Unfortunately, we do not have a concrete figure for the European Union right now for this kind of trafficking, but we see that also here the numbers are rising when being detected. When we look at the people who are behind these cases, we know that 64% of the registered victims of trafficking are actually not EU citizens. They are third country nationals. And very often they report that they have little language skills in the EU country they're based in, little knowledge about the system, and often no family members or trusted networks around them. Often also, victims of trafficking are not able to self-identify, or they're too afraid to seek support. This can be because they do not have the knowledge about their rights in the EU member state in which they are. That can also be due to fear and shame, but also when we think of forced criminality, that they are afraid if they would report that they would be sentenced for the crimes, even though they self are victims of a crime. And we also know from reports, especially from Greta reports, that authorities face challenges when it comes to identifying and detecting victims of trafficking. So to sum this up, when we think of trafficking, we have to have in mind that today these kinds of crimes start often online, and that 1/3 of these cases involve forced labor, and there exists also forced criminality which do not have reliable figures right now. And the most vulnerable people are often the hardest to detect. Here we think of minors, we think of third country nationals with no or little networks and little knowledge about their possibilities and rights, and also little language skills in the country which they're based at. So if this is the context, let me come to the approach we're working on. We believe that if we want to change anything with a project, we have to put the perspective of a victim or of survivor of trafficking in the center of all our actions. That means we work on a survivor-centered approach. This comes alive when we look at regulations and policies through the eyes of survivors and to understand which barriers in self-identification exists today and how we could lower them. When we think of trainings for authorities, we include always the do no harm approach and also inform about trauma-sensitive communication and want to be seen with our trainings as a best practice example. And first and foremost, we also collaborate directly with survivors of trafficking. We have an advisory board where they're represented. We work with folks. This is mentioned as one group. However, there is also an intersectionality within this group where you also have to divide between gender and between age, for instance. So we take this also into account. Trafficking is not a phenomenon that stops at a border. It's actually the opposite. So we believe that our work should not do either. This is why we build on strong partnerships across Europe. TIES is a project with 4 partners. And on top of that, we also collaborate in a community of practice with experts from Bucharest, from Hamburg, and from Berlin, where we invite them to co-develop a digital streetwork approach with us. And we participate in conferences and roundtables for knowledge exchange, and we even host them. And when you have these numbers in mind of up to 11,000 cases recorded and 4 million people estimated, then we know one project cannot change that at all. But we believe in impact and scale. That means all our efforts in this TIES project are scalable. And after the project ended in May 2027, we hope that many organizations in the anti-trafficking sector will follow up and that they will continue the work based on our findings, based on our trainings, based on our approaches that we provide to everybody online for free, both within the EU and also for organizations outside the European Union. So let me come to the actions that we plan until May 2027. We are built on a 3-pillar approach. And the first pillar is looking at direct services for potential victims of trafficking. And here I would like to outline our digital streetwork approach. Digital streetwork is similar to classical streetwork. In classical streetwork, you would go out to asylum centers, to prisons, to job-seeking fora, to community centers, to places where you know there could be a group at risk, and to sensitize and inform about possibilities and rights. The approach has often a low barrier, and digital street work works the same. However, we are online. We are on TikTok. We are on WhatsApp. We are in Instagram and informed there because we know today most people are also there. And we do this by co-creating such an approach with survivors of trafficking and academic experts, where we discuss what framing and language is needed in our communication that builds trust, and also in which channels and Facebook groups actually we can find people that we see as our clients. Also, we built on the expertise in the anti-trafficking sector. We had a study visit to Athens in September, and there we invited 3 pioneers from 3 different organizations who are already active with digital street work to learn from them and how they implement it, so that we also can use their knowledge. And further on, we are planning to publish in a toolkit for other anti-trafficking organizations how to adapt our digital street work approach later on for their context. So you can calculate we need 4 months to develop a digital street work approach for our context. And we hope that with a toolkit, for instance, your organization might be able to directly implement within only 4 weeks, because it will have communication strategies, it will have info material, it even will have our content that you can check whether it's adaptable for your context or not. And additionally, we will have also information on safeguarding, safety, and upholding ethics when working online. With our work until May 2027, we want to reach 1,000 potential victims of trafficking and to equip them with targeted information online. And we want to refer 120 victims of trafficking through digital street work, and to refer them to support services in their regional area.
Buonasera, mi è arrivata la fattura della team che
The
maggioranza...
second pillar is when it comes to capacity building. Here we want to train authorities and non-anti-trafficking practitioners to identify and detect. When I say authorities, I mean people working in the police and border police, in the justice system, who are social workers, for instance, but also who are labor inspectors, and collaborating with them. Here, in our trainings, we will have an emphasis in gender and age sensitivity and a survivor-centered approach. And we do not believe in a one training fits for all method, but our training material will be tailored to specific fields of works and contexts. So we'll have different kinds of trainings, and one might work for sea rescue NGOs in Italy. Another will be for community centers. A third one will be for the border police, so that we also have it tailored to the diverse needs and realities. We hope that not only we will work with that, but that your organizations might work with that too. For this, anti-trafficking organizations can use the material that we will create for free. We created for this a new website, which is called antitraffickingresponse.org. It is online since last month. And this is not a project website, but it's a program website from the IRC. That means this website, even our project will end in May 2027, it will be later on kept live and updated, and you will also find their information material from other projects and from other organizations as well. With our work in this pillar, we want to train 100 practitioners who are non-experts in the anti-trafficking field for their particular field of work. And the third pillar and last one, advocacy, is about peer education and policy recommendations for a stronger anti-trafficking system in Europe. Here we want to translate our latest findings and the needs of survivors we are in close contact with into policy recommendations to make policymakers better understand how trafficking is at play in social media, and also how policymakers across the European Union could do something about it. We want to discuss also our findings with peer experts and policymakers across the EU, for instance, through roundtables, but also in a webinar like this here. And actually, this is right now happening. This is the first webinar, but there will be 5 more where we will discuss other topics and other findings. And we want to provide peers with a free online training to identify and refer cases of forced labor and forced criminality that will be uploaded on the Kaya online platform, where peers can be trained for free through the self-learning webinar. With that work, we want to equip 20 policymakers with policy recommendations across Europe, and we want to see 20 peer organizations that benefit from our TICE findings, materials, and approaches. So here you see our goals in a summary, but we are not stopping there, but also planning to continue with offline street work. Even though we are developing an online street work approach, we still believe that offline street work is important. And this is why we plan to refer 110 and more victims of trafficking safely to support systems through the offline street work. And I can tell you already that by September 2025, we managed to refer 65 people. So more of half of the people that we planned are already being referred in the first 4 months of this project. And even though we here in this webinar might be aware of the phenomenon of trafficking, especially to forced labor and forced criminality, but the reality is that most EU citizens are not, or at least not as we would like to see. That's why we are going to start an online campaign next year, where we want to raise awareness to more than 600 EU citizens on these phenomenon, and also what could be changed about it. So the narrative will lie on the solutions. And when we talk about solutions, I would also like to mention a comparison kit for detection systems that will be sent to more than 200 organizations worldwide. And it will contain different national referral mechanisms. They are currently active in EU member states. And by comparing them, we want to see where are the strengths in and how could they be adapted to other contexts, and also where are gaps that could be closed soon. And for that, we already started in September in Athens, where we were hosted by the National Center for Social Solidarity. So here you see colleagues from TICE and also Mrs. Yani from the National Center for Social Solidarity and her colleagues from the European Union Agency for Asylum, where we could start already a discussion and debate about the national referral mechanism in Greece. And why were we interested so much in the Greek case? It is because when the national referral mechanism was implemented first time in 2019, we saw 154 cases. However, in only 6 years, there were already 465 cases. So this is 3 times more cases in only 6 years. And we wanted to understand what could other EU member states and other actors interested in the national referral mechanism learn here in this case. And I'm very happy that we can now continue this conversation and also broaden up the audience and to discuss this topic further on. The presentation that you see here, you can have a look afterwards on it in the chat. I will post it in the chat and you can download it. And If you are interested more in the TIES project and would like to exchange and collaborate, please send me an email or directly call me. I'm happy to receive your call. My name is Filip Mitrowski, and these are my contact details. So for now, thank you very much. And I would give over to you, Dimitra.
We are now ready to introduce Mr. Yanis Brachos, the head of the Office of the National Rapporteur on Trafficking in Human Beings from Greece. Mr. Brachos will share with us useful information on national strategy and Greece's coordinated efforts to combat human trafficking. Mr. Brachos, if you're ready, you may begin.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your invitation. Thank you, Mr. Petrovsky. Thank you, Ms. Renitaki, and also allow me to congratulate you for your initiative of the whole project, not only for today's webinar. That is not only some nice words, but I really appreciate your work. And not only ARSIS is one of our preference, let's say NGOs in Greece that is making a huge effort.
So the article you published with D2 that we chatted about.
As far as it is
Could you do a
concerned,
self-assessment for me? What sort of stars do you think it is? You don't have to do it right this second, right?
okay. As far as it concerns the Office of National Rapporteur, the main responsibility is the coordination, and also is the implementation and elaboration of the national strategy for dealing with the phenomenon. And the NRM is also under the Office of National Rapporteur. We have an excellent coordination, cooperation. That is without involving the ONR to the NRM in the way that they are working. They are totally independent on that sense. But in the same time, we have the coordination of the mechanism. And the issue of trafficking of human beings has two dimensions. Mainly, one thing is victims and the protection, and also the way that we can prevent the existence of the phenomenon. That is, let's say, is the social aspect of the issue. But in the same time, it's the crime aspect that has also the dimension of the judicial system, and also of the intervention of the law enforcement on that procedure. So our role is exactly to try to coordinate and also to create, to represent the country in the network of EU national rapporteur, and also to reporting back to the national conventions, to the International Convention, and OSCE, Council of Europe, UN, etc. That means a lot of paperwork, but that doesn't mean that we are absolutely irrelevant with the field on understanding the situation there. So just I'll try to be extremely brief now. We are in line to have a strategy, to create a national strategy, doubling by a national action plan that is going to be a living text that is going every year or every 2 years, that it depends on the people that they are going to be in that office. We are going to update it in order to not to be a theological book, but to give answers to the realities on the spot. Having said that, the main priority for that period, according to the provisional data that we have from NRM, is the forced labor numbers that they are exploited, and is the first reason of trafficking in human beings. Then is the sexual exploitation, of course, remains important. And third is the forced criminality. And one of the issues that always I'm trying to refer to everybody, because you are experts and you know the difference between trafficking and smuggling. If you are asked our ministers, independently of parties that they are coming for, or your ministers, and you're asking them what's the difference between trafficking and smuggling, there is no answer. So that's one of the problem, of a key problem in my view, because that related to the European Union approach that put the emphasis on migration routes and trafficking is more complicated. If you see the data, the statistical data, the northern countries, they have more, let's say, inter-EU trafficking, and the south countries that they are the entrance of migrants, they have mainly migration trafficking. That doesn't mean in one case or on the other that is exactly the way to see the thing. That means that we need more work to do on that, not only on statistical, also on understanding and to convince also European Union that the problem remains there. Because a lot of people, they think that if we try to manage the migration flows, we have an answer to the trafficking. That's not the case. It's an industry with 260 billions globally speaking, 65 billions in European Union, and that there are a lot of money with low risk. That means that we have a lot of work, all the actors, including the official sector, the NGOs, and also the international organization to cooperate in order to find solution if that's possible. Because one of the main story is not only if we wish, but if we can. And in order to can, we need some resources. I know it's not exactly on the points that you are going to discuss, but in the near future, there is a possibility due to the wars, to geopolitical problems, to have an influx of new cases. So we have to be better prepared on that. So what we are doing in Athens in order to try to find a solution to be prepared on that, we have two sets of groups. One on public authorities and the independent committees or organization of the state, and from the other part another group of NGOs, and also the national organization based in Athens. And these two groups, we are preparing the national action plan. We exchange papers, and we hope that by the end of the year we are going to present the final draft before giving to our minister to accept it. That's the beginning for me. I want to just to point out that legally speaking and institutionally, Greece is an excellent point, in an excellent situation, but the problem is in the field. And the problem there is the resources. There are not resources for the state only, but mainly for the people that they are on the field, for the NGOs, and also for the rest of the community that they accept migrants, or they have to protect the people, because a lot of victims, and I appreciate extremely well the work they are doing with the survivors, and also we have to listen carefully and try to ameliorate the situation, given the support of the survivors to us. I know that is someone could listen strange, that is out of the context, but it's true. We have to support them from the one side, and if they wish, it would be extremely helpful for us to support us. So having said that, I want to wish you all the best for the next moves of your program, and also for the existing webinar. Thank you very much for your attention.
Everyone, I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's our honor to be here today, and thank you, Dimitra, for introducing. My name is Mariana Christou. I am a social worker, and I'm a member of the National Referral Mechanism team of Greece since the beginning of its function, since 2019, and going on. And I'm here today just to present some of the core functions of the Greek National Referral Mechanism, and some basic statistics and data. And you can ask any questions you want. I will try to share my PowerPoint. Okay. Okay. Can you see?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Now? Still?
Yep.
Yes, Mariana.
Okay, because the last day I had an issue with changing the PowerPoint, so you can see everything now that I'm changing. Okay, perfect. So let's see. So I'm going to present a little bit about what is the National Referral Mechanism and how it functions in Greece specifically. So the definition, okay, I assume everybody, you know the definition of the National Referral Mechanism. It's basically, and as Mr. Brachos mentioned before, basically it's a cooperative framework. So we're trying to work through this framework and support all the actors that are on the ground and field workers in identifying and protecting victims of trafficking. So I'm going to be a bit brief. I'm not going to present the definition itself, because I assume you're all familiar. So let's see in Greece how it works. Some basic principles. It's owned by the state. So it's two ministries that are running the function of the National Referral Mechanism. As we mentioned before, and Ms. Brachos talked before, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it's the basic ministry that has the supervision of the National Referral Mechanism. It's the next slide, I think. And then it's the Ministry of Social Cohesion and Family that has the management, the NRM team that manages every issue that has to do with the function of the National Referral Mechanism. So it's state ownership is one of the basic principles, since we need to have sustainability and we need to have the state taking these initiatives and all these protection measures for victims of trafficking. Of course, always in cooperation with civil society, NGOs, international organizations, and international NGOs. So civil society's participation is also a very basic principle for the Greek NRM, that they participated in the design and the operation of the mechanism. and we will see more in the next slides. So we always follow a victim-centered approach. So we always have the victim in the center and the human rights of the victim based on gender, trauma, the age, and all the other factors that can be related to vulnerabilities of the victim. But main is the human rights centered approach based on the victim and the protection of the victim. So we also promote the intersectoral approach. We need to have a holistic approach, let's say. So we need to have all partners included in the function of the national referral mechanism. So we're trying to include everyone. We already have many actors that are members of the national referral mechanism, state actors, civil society actors, and we always promote this because we believe, and we have seen from the field, of course, that the more cooperation exists among different scientific backgrounds and professionals, the more holistic approach we can achieve concerning the protection of victims of trafficking. So here is the state ownership, as we said before. So the supervision and coordination of the mechanism is managed from the Office of the National Rapporteur against Trafficking in Human Beings from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the operation and management of the NRM is conducted through ECA. ECA is the National Center for Social Solidarity, belongs to the Ministry of Social Cohesion and Family. So the NRM team that you will hear us mentioning this many times, the NRM team that manages all issues related to the NRM is based in ECA. So everything we do, it's in cooperation, of course, with the National Rapporteur. And then there is this specific work we do in ECA that we will talk more in the next slides. So what we basically do, we collect data from the reporting forms that field professionals fill in once they identify victims of trafficking. We register all this data, and we have platforms that we register all this data, and then we have reports, we have statistics. It's the first time that in a national level we can achieve to have a more comprehensive statistics. So we have statistics from many different actors that identify victims of trafficking, and they all report to the national referral mechanism. So we have centralized data, which is very important to have it on a national level so we can have conclusions, we can identify trends, we can see the profile of the victims in a more, again, holistic image and picture. So we register all this data, and which is all done by field professionals. So we always target field professionals when it comes to capacity building trainings that we will see in later slides. So we also do case monitoring, and we monitor the whole stage of the referral pathway for victims of trafficking, but we also monitor each case by case. We follow up the cases that are reported to the NRM, always through contacting professionals on the phone or through emails, and keeping data also about the services, the protection services that victims of trafficking receive on a national level. So we do that in each case individually through specific tools, NRM tools that we have created. And we have designed a national database through which we work on all the statistics that we have from the reporting forms. So we designed, and we have all these NRM tools. Of course, these tools were first designed by the working groups through the NRM, that they created the SOPs and the NRM tools. We will talk a little bit more about it later. So in the core of the NRM, it's the process of detecting and identifying presumed victims of trafficking. Again, this is something that I will explain in a while. So it's very important to promote the ability for all professionals, no matter if they have a related background or not, no matter if they are a psychosocial background or if it's a totally irrelevant professional background, since they come in contact with people that are vulnerable and people that might be victims of trafficking, we need all of them to be aware and to be able to identify a victim, to see the signs and okay, so basic signs that they realize then that this might be a victim of trafficking, and then what to do with that. So how to report and where to refer and all this. So we are trying to include many different organizations and we're trying to promote the cooperation and build networking among all involved partners so that victims are offered assistance through referral to specialized services, okay? So there is a very wide spectrum of protection services for the victims, and we are trying to build networks through all these involved professions and professionals and actors. So we promote this, as we said before, the holistic approach for the protection of victims of trafficking and victim-centered approach. So we're trying also to promote, to reconcile victim assistance with investigation and prosecution efforts. So we, of course, we cooperate with all actors involved and, of course, the actors that are related to investigations and police and authorities and judges, they are all included in the national referral mechanism. So we are also trying to promote this side of the story as well. Of course, we have priority to protect the victims, but at the same time, we need to promote the prosecution of perpetrators. So this is also very important. And the collection of data. This arrow didn't want to stay in the position I put it, so it's above data, but it's okay. So we collect statistics, as we said before, and identify deficiencies. This is also an added value, let's say, for the statistics that the NRM collects. We can identify deficiencies and we can then advocate in order to have some improvements in legislation and in practice regarding protection services. So this is also very important. This is also one of the main points of gathering all the statistics on a national level to have an image of how human trafficking operates in Greece and how to advocate for the professionals and for the services to get even better, to enhance the whole system and how it responds to the needs of victims of trafficking and the prosecution of perpetrators. So, who is reported to the national referral mechanism? Who should be reported? Let's see, we differentiate between potential victims of trafficking in human beings. So when we say potential victims of trafficking, maybe you already know, we mean people that are vulnerable, individuals whose physical or psychological health is at stake, and maybe economically they're very vulnerable, or they are in a situation, for example, they have no identification and legal documentation in order to be legally staying in Greece. The age, the gender, the social isolation, minorities, social minorities, all these vulnerabilities create situations that people that are vulnerable might be more exposed to the danger of being exploited by perpetrators. So we consider these people, as long as we do not know yet if they are exploited, and as long as we do not know yet if they have in their personal social history the three main elements of human trafficking, we consider these people potential victims of trafficking. So we're talking about groups of people that are in a very high risk of being trafficked they're in a very high risk to be exploited. So we need, of course, to protect these groups, but these are the cases that are not referred to the national referral mechanism. So who is referred to the national referral mechanism? It's people that they have in the personal social history the three main elements of human trafficking, which is, of course, you already know. It's these main three categories, okay? So we need to have at least one action of these, and we need to have at least one of these means used in order to get the consent of the victim, which is not, which is never true and real consent, authentic consent in human trafficking, and the purpose of exploitation, which can take all these different forms. So we need to have these three elements. Of course, in cases of children, we do not take into consideration the means, okay? So we never take into consideration whether the child has gave a consent in order to be exploited. So in that case, we only need these two elements, one action at least for the purpose of exploitation, for someone to get money to profit from this activity. So when we have people that in their social history, they have these three elements, we always see that there are people that, of course, they have many different vulnerabilities, and we're talking about people that had these vulnerabilities already from before, and of course, after being exploited, they're even more vulnerable. So we need to have these three elements in their social history in order for them to be reported to the NRM. And these are the presumed victims of trafficking. So we're talking about people that we do know as professionals after we come in contact, direct contact with them, we do know that they have these three elements. So this is when we do report in the national referral mechanism, okay? I don't know if anyone wants to ask anything. You can interrupt and you can ask anything you want anytime. So I'm just explaining which cases are reported to the national referral mechanism. So I'm moving on. So some basic operation principles when we operate as the NRM management team. And that's what we also promote in every professional we're talking and we're coming in contact, and when we build networking, we always promote these principles. So we always consider any presumed victim as a victim of human trafficking throughout the whole process of their protection, from their identification to their social integration, or until the case is closed. The whole process, we consider this person as a victim of trafficking, as a presumed victim of trafficking. And it's irrelevant whether this person will be officially identified as a victim of trafficking, which in Greece, this is something that only authorities can do, and the prosecutors. So we consider these people as victims of trafficking, no matter if they will be officially recognized as victims or not. This is a right of the victim if they want to claim this right. But we consider these people, and we need to offer protection services to anyone that we identify these elements in their social history. So we need to have the consent of the victim in order to offer any protection service, okay? So we always need to have the consent. Of course, the consent is a big discussion. We know that in cases of children, again, this is something that we do not take into consideration, but of course we inform the child and we always hear what they want to say and what they want to do. But we need to know as professionals when to take the consent or not. But we always need to have an informed consent, at least in adult victims and in every victim, in order to offer our services, and after we have fully informed them about their rights and all this procedure. So the victim may decide whether they will receive help or not. Of course, again, the consent here, it's a big discussion, and when to break this situation as a professional if you realize that someone is in real danger. But in general, we need to have the decision of the victim included in everything we do. We need to have the victim with us. We need to have the person that has been exploited to be the main lead to the whole individualized action plan that we have for this person. And of course, every time we need to have an individualized action plan, because the needs are different. Not all victims have the same needs. It always depends when the person is identified, in which stage, if it's in the beginning that someone is currently exploited, or if it's someone that has been exploited like many years ago. Different protection services needs someone that has been identified right now and has escaped right now, and different protection needs has someone that has been a victim of trafficking, for example, like 5 years ago or 1 year ago. So it always has to be individualized, depending on the age, depending on the gender, depending on cultural backgrounds. There is never a very specific plan for everyone. So, what are the NRM actors? I will move a bit faster. So the NRM actors, it's many state actors, specialized actors, and non-specialized actors. So we have from hospitals and community centers to specialized actors like police, like social services that work directly with victims of trafficking, asylum service, NGOs that target vulnerable people, and of course, it's the national rapporteur and all these actors you see on the right side, international institutions, EU, NRM in other countries that we cooperate, and all these are smaller parts of a bigger picture. Okay, so we cooperate with all these involved actors. The public actors in the NRM are all these ministries that you can see here. I'm not gonna go through this one by one because it's too many, but you can see. Of course, it's the ministry that ECA belongs, and many other social services and general secretariats, and of course the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Migration and Asylum, with all the relevant services above. I will move Ministry of Citizen and Protection, Interior, and Foreign Affairs. So NGOs, this is civil society organizations, and this is just a list, indicative list, not exhaustive list, because there are too many. I mean, there are never too many. We always want to have more, but there are many, and we cannot like have an exhaustive list here. But you can see at the moment, there are, I think, more than 59 NGOs, international NGOs, and international organizations. So what does the NRM do? I will move a bit faster. So some of the good practices we have identified and we always present as good practices, of course, comparing also to previously functioning national referral mechanisms from other countries, but from our own experience from the field and our own experience as NRM team. Some of the good practices is having joint meetings with representatives of state agencies and civil society organizations all over the country on a national level. So we always do visits on site to different regions in Greece, and we talk directly to professionals from many different actors on the ground. So we will visit many different places, and we will see the local police, the local hospital, the local social service, the local NGOs. We are trying to have interagency capacity building trainings. We have been doing that since 2019. We have conducted many different on-site trainings, but we also do online trainings since COVID-19, as we all are aware, and we all did. We tried to adapt, so we created educative material, and we are doing trainings also online. So we are always targeting professionals, even from a single agency or from different agencies, because we also want to have this cooperation with other organizations as well. We always have these reports. We have annual reports, and we also have midterm reports that we present all the statistics we gather through the reporting forms that the field professionals send to the NRM. So these are all published. You can have access. They are all published in Greek and in English in ECA site. And you can have access on that. And you can see all the statistics and information we have there. So the publication of the NRM handbook and the NRM practical guide for field professionals, we have created these tools that have been proved to be very effective, and they are targeting specifically field workers, and it's very, very helpful, guiding and giving very specific information on how to do case management, from what is human trafficking to how to do a very specialized case management and trauma-informed care, etc. These are also available in English and in Greek. And we have also developed information material that we send throughout all actors on a national level. We have leaflets targeting potential victims of trafficking or presumed victims of trafficking. And we have distributed all this material to different actors on the ground, that maybe people that are vulnerable or that are already victims of trafficking can have access to this material through visiting the premises of specific actors on the ground. So these are some of the good practices of the NRM. This is the cover from the handbook you can find online in Greek and English. And this is the practical guide for professionals, first-line professionals, very specific guideline for how to do case management for victims of trafficking, and even more, how to communicate, and of course, all the legal framework. And it targets professionals from doing psychosocial support to legal services, all this spectrum of professions. And these are the leaflets, information leaflets. These are newsletters that we publish every now and then. We're trying to do it as more frequently as possible, and we're trying to present some of the news, international, maybe on a European level, but mainly on a national level. So we publish also when we have the reports and some statistics of the reports of the NRM. And these are the SOPs. So we promote these SOPs that have been created through working groups that created actually the whole function of the NRM before NRM starts operating. So these are the basic operating procedures that every actor that is included in the NRM follows, and every professional should be aware and knows that these are the main steps. So we begin from identification and information provision and covering the basic needs. And we need all professionals to be able to do this first step, to identify a victim and to be able to answer some basic questions about their human rights and about covering their basic needs. And then after that, they can refer the case to a more specialized actor. So the next step is taken by a more specialized actor, which can do case management. So it's the case management actor undertakes the case. So it follows the victim's case in each stage from the beginning, covering first-level protection services that can include shelter, medical care, psychosocial support, or legal guardianship, for example, in unaccompanied minors, or legal aid before and during criminal procedures. So these are all the protection services that a victim of trafficking can receive. And the actor that has the case management might do all these actions and coordination of actions in order to cover these different needs of the victims. So after all these needs are covered and the victim is protected and empowered, of course, this takes a lot of time, but this is the ideal, right? So we have the first step, and the next step is case management, covering the protection needs. And then the next level is achieving either social integration, if the victim is staying in Greece, so they need to learn the language and find a job, or it can be voluntary repatriation, settlement in a third country through relocation programs, etc. Always depending on the best interest of the victim, okay? And always through doing assessments with professionals that offer protection services and identify the needs of the victim and whether it is best for the victim to stay here and be socially integrated or return back to their home country. So this is where the case closes, okay? It starts with identification and closes with either repatriation or social integration. Of course, every case can be interrupted in any time, okay? So victims are very unpredictable through all these traumatic events they have been through. So we never know when a victim will have a complete protection scheme received of services, but we just present the whole steps and all the operating procedures. Of course, we need the consent throughout all these stages of services. And we all know that we cannot even offer protection services if the victim doesn't want to. So the basic NRM tools are the reporting form, the consent form, which is not mandatory for professionals to send it to us. It's only for their own use. We need to have the reporting form, which is the questionnaire. And we also have the protection services provision follow-up form that we need to have it every 4 months. And we are informed about the protection services that victims receive every 4 months. So these are the basic NRM tools. Who completes the referral form? The reporting form, basically, it's the identification actor, so the professional that identifies the victim and that has the direct contact with the victim is the one that we want them to fill in the form and send it to us because they have the more complete information from the words of the victim. So, and usually this is the case management actor, which is included in this procedure. So, how is the referral form completed? So the reporting form is completed through information and facts that have been described from the victim. We are only based on what the victim says, of course, and we fill in the form based on the information we have. So if you see the form, which is also available in Greek and English on the site of ECA, you can see that it has this structure that when we have a social history and a human trafficking history, you can fill in the form from the beginning till the end. It guides you and it guides the way a professional should think and assess the information they have and have the conclusion on whether the victim is victim of trafficking or not. So there are specific sections for acts, means, and purpose of exploitation. So the registration of cases, it's always based on the consent. So also the reporting form is sent. We want the consent for someone to send the reporting form with a specific code that is completed from the professional. It's anonymous, so we never have the full data of each case, but we only have a first initial code that is created from the professional and it's used just for the enter of the case. Then we have a registration number that we give in each case. When we have no consent, then there is no registration number, there is no code in the beginning. It's only information used for statistics and only very general information about the history of the person. And this is the structure of the reporting form. We have demographics of current demographics and demographics that are related to the recruitment stage, where that might be very different from the current demographics if the trafficking took place like a long time ago. We have the recruitment stage and all the means that have been used in the recruitment and the acts, the transportation or transfer, that it's not necessarily transnational, okay? We have the reception, we have harboring. So the form, you will fill in the form in all these different stages with all the different means that have been used in each stage. And then it's the stage of exploitation, and then we know at this stage what exactly was the exploitation, which form of exploitation, and then we move on to protection services that the victim of trafficking received, and whether there is official recognition from the public prosecutor. It's only public prosecutors that officially recognize victims of trafficking in Greece. And then there is a section for penal procedures, victims' participation, and compensation. And that's where the reporting form is completed. Not all these have to be filled in. What is specifically has to be filled in, it's the actions, means, and purpose. So we know that we do have a case of victim of trafficking. We always come in contact directly with professionals that fill in the forms. So whenever we need to ask questions or make clear some situation that was not clear before, we can communicate directly with professionals. We never come in contact with the victims themselves. We never come in direct contact as NRM team. We never come in direct contact with victims of trafficking. We only come in contact with professionals that offer their services and professionals that identify the victims. So, any questions until now?
Mariana, thank you very much. So far, we have 10 minutes left, and you mentioned already the resources you're providing. For everybody interested, I'm here popping in to the chat the link where you find also the reporting form that Mariana explained. You will find also all reports in Greek and English, info material, and also there was a newsletter where you can also read what happened in the last months and years at the National Center for Social Solidarity. So for this, thank you very much. And also thank you for almost 50 participants in this call. Some of you might have joined a little bit later. If you have not written into the register form, I will provide you the link to the register form. So please register to this webinar so that we know who was actually participating here, from which background. That would help us a lot. And for the Q&A, Dimitra, I would give over to you so we can have maybe a couple of questions that we have already in the chat answered in the last minutes.
Mariana, thank you again for joining us and highlighting the role of the National Referral Mechanism. As always, it has been a pleasure to hear from you and learn more about important data and indicators which reflect the current situation in the field. So, dear all speakers and guests, at this point our presentations are officially over, and I believe we still have time for a few questions. Please feel free to raise your hand and to share any questions you might have.
I still have the statistics to present a bit briefly, but if there are any questions about what we mentioned for the NRM or anything related.
I see,
You're more
Christina,
than
you
welcome.
raised your hand. Christina, go on.
Sorry, now you can hear me? Yes. Thank
Yes.
you for your presentation. Just to clarify, if a victim is identified as a presumed victim, they get all the help that you just mentioned.
Mhm.
And does that cover a reflection and recovery period?
Does that, sorry?
Does
I-
it cover a reflection and recovery period?
This depends on the case and whether it has proceeded on reporting the perpetrators or going to legally be further worked on. So it's not all victims have the reflection period. It depends whether they want to be characterized and have the official recognition of victims of trafficking and whether they want to cooperate with police or not. These are the different rights and the legal framework for victims of trafficking in Greece. But this is not the prerequisite for a victim of trafficking to be reported in the NRM, definitely. And this is not something that the victim has to have in order to be protected. So it depends on which states and whether they want to report to authorities what has happened, whether they want to cooperate, or whether they want to claim from the public prosecutor to recognize them as victims of trafficking officially. Yeah.
Thank you. And who is the institution or authority who signs the presumed victim status? Is that a governmental authority or is that the NRM team that you have described?
You mean the official recognition, right?
No, so if it is a presumed victim,
Okay.
but who decides that the victim is presumed and gets
Okay.
into
Yeah.
a shelter, for example?
Okay, I understand what you're asking. So there is no kind of certification for presumed victims unless someone is identified and reported. But even if they're not reported, they're still, if professionals know that they do have these basic elements of human trafficking in their history, they offer services to them. And there is no official recognition for presumed victims of trafficking. Actually, every victim of trafficking is presumed and until they are recognized by the public prosecutor, which is not always the case. Not all victims of trafficking are recognized by the public prosecutor. Not all cases reach the public prosecutor. It's on them whether they want or not to have this. But of course, if police arrests, for example, the perpetrators, and then the victims the case of the victim might directly go automatically, of course, to the public prosecutor, and then maybe they're recognized officially, etc. But every victim that has these three elements is a presumed victim, is regarded a presumed victim. There is no official recognition for that. It's regarded as such and is protected as such until officially they're recognized, which is not mandatory.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we also have a question from Francesca Cimino from Italy. Francesca, if you want, you can turn on your camera, introduce yourself briefly, and raise your question. And Mariana, meanwhile, I would invite you to turn off the sharing of the screen
Yeah,
so we can
yeah,
better
sorry.
see each other. Thanks.
Where? Stop share.
Hello. Okay, yes, you can see me. Thank you for your presentation, Mariana, and for this webinar today. I have two questions. One is related to let's say, the bodies and the agencies and institutions and NGOs working and cooperating with the NRM. I was wondering what was your experience in cooperating detentions-like facilities, and with this I refer not only to, of course, prisons and jails, but also to administrative detention centers or, for example, transit areas like in the airports. and these kind of situations where there's a privation of the liberty, of the personal liberty. So I'm interested in a bit in your experience and if you do collaborate also with them. And also, I was curious because I mean the increase that you had in the number of the identification of victims during these first 6 years is notable. It's relevant. And what do you think that were the let's say the main successful points of these improvements?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I got your question right, yes, we cooperate also with. You said about you gave an example about the airports or places that are. Sorry, you said like detention or.
Yes, I said where the personal liberty is limited. So, for example,
Okay.
administrative detention centers.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah, we do. We do cooperate with all structures of the Ministry of Migration and Asylum. So yes, we do have a lot of actually most of our reporting forms are from structures of the Ministry of Migration and Asylum, which are places like from the islands and the borders of the country, which people live there. And we also have people that have been arrested, for example, for being undocumented, but they are identified while they are detained. They are identified as victims of trafficking. So we do have also reporting forms from detention centers, for example. So yeah, these all are actors that are already included in the NRM, and we do have cooperation, and we do have reporting forms from all these places as well. And currently we have more and more. So the more professionals are experienced and the more they are educated on how to identify victims of trafficking, the more they respond to these needs and they identify victims of trafficking in a more effective way, and they report it to the NRM. So on the second question that you said, yes, this
Mariana, before we go into the second question, I would like to be respectful of everybody's time. This is now 3:30 in Germany or 4:30 p.m. in Greece. If anyone has to jump off, feel free to. If you can stay for a couple of minutes, and Mariana, also if you could stay, we'd love to hear you. If you have to go, just one point, this was the first webinar out of a series of 6 webinars. I would really like to learn from you what was supportive for you and what you'd like to see the next time. So please fill out a feedback. It's an anonymous feedback on our webinar so we can learn for the coming 5. If you find the time today or right now after after this webinar, thank you very much. That would be very appreciated. And for everybody who can stay, also for you, Mariana, thank you. If you could just have a couple of more minutes altogether.
Of course. So I'm moving on to so the second question was whether we have seen, from what I understood, whether we have seen some successful results or something like a progress. I would say, of course, yes, there is a very big progress throughout these years, and this is very obvious. Also, if you see the reports of the NRM through every year, there is there is this tension to have more and more victims identified. So now, in the first semester of 2025, we have more victims identified than all the years before. So this is going up. more and more, and this we consider it as a success of not, of course, that it's more victims out there, but that the professionals are much more aware and much more trained in order to identify the victims, and they know how to do the report and all this procedure. So this is the main success we have seen, and the thing that there is this voice now to advocate for these protection services and the legal framework. And we are also currently trying to establish also a survivors group. So we're trying to include the victims themselves in the national referral mechanism. And this is all improvements. So we're building on that, and we're trying to be more and more effective.
Thank you, Mariana. Thank you all for joining us. Unfortunately, our time is over for today, but please stay tuned for our next webinars and roundtables. And we wish you all a very, very pleasant afternoon. Thank you all.
Thank you.